Sniper here. Hostile contact, 12 o'clock.
Charge set. Standing by for your go.
Camo up. On my mark. 3, 2, 1.
And so we're sitting here with Yann Suquet, who's the associate producer on Ghost Recon Future Soldier. And Yann, what we've seen here today at the presentation, the Ghost Recon franchise seemed to be taking a much more gritty and realistic approach to the series. How did you come up with that?
Well, first of all, thanks for coming and taking interest in our game. So, to answer the question, the difference between Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter and Ghost Recon Future Soldier is the following. We've definitely stayed true to the Ghost Recon franchise because we're still edgy, we're still super soldiers, but We've worked in very, very close collaboration with special forces, with weapon manufacturers, with everything relating to the military on the game. Of course, Red Storm Entertainment, which you all know is the historic Tom Clancy dev studio, is working on the game as well with us. And so they have very close collaborations and excellent relationships with everything relating to military. So we've got great contacts. And so we worked with them on various parts of the game. We've worked with them on weapons, as you've seen on Gunsmith. So just to convey that feeling of, you know, being able to customize your weapon into their inner parts, match your exact gaming style. We've worked with them on motion capture, just to get the feeling of, you know, of the team. We've had 4 guys actually doing the motion capture together, so that we have a feeling of them moving together as a group, you know, getting the feeling of a team. Because if we only had one guy, it would be just one guy, you know, and adding the animation together, putting the animation together for the 4 characters, and that wouldn't give the same feeling. So that adds a level of realism to the game. And then the most important thing, of course, is we've worked with them on understanding how their operations work, how their life on the field is, and basically they've told us that it's about recon, it's about understanding what you're facing, and it's about acting accurately in every situation. For instance, you might notice a difference between Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2 or 1 and 2 and Ghost Recon Future Soldier is that we don't give the orders on positions anymore. In GRA, we call it GRA, we used to give the order just go behind that car or hide behind that wall and be in a defensive or an aggressive position. The soldiers we worked with told us that this is not the type of order they usually give on the battlefield. What they do is usually they say to their teammate, you take out this guy, I take out this guy, and we take out, I mean, you know, they give individual orders on targets. So we've implemented that in the game, and then the team just acts accordingly, and your teammates will go into certain position themselves to take out the particular target you mark for them. So that's how the new order system works in the game. It's much more, it matches the reality of it. That system also applies when you're in combat. For instance, if you are being flanked by, if you are as a player your character is being flanked by an enemy, and you're busy with that guy, and at the same time you're being suppressed or shot at by a 50 cal machine gun on a jeep, you might you can now give the order to your team to, you know, to focus their fire on that particular target, so that you get that cleared out of the way and you can move forward with your mission. So when you're in combat and it's super tense, you just tell your team, focus fire on this thing, just pressing one button, and they do, and that clears the way. So it's really about, you get the feeling of being a team, of working together to clear the situations. So this is really how special forces operate, and we are really proud to being able to convey that experience to the players.
Now, what we've seen here today, we've seen the soldiers use all kinds of, you could say, crazy gadgets, like the cloak that lowers their visibility, and drones and stuff like that. And then we see them fighting guys in Africa and you know, places like that. How do you keep things balanced with such a scenario? Right.
So the thing is, Future Soldier is called Future Soldier because, well, obviously it's in the future. It's 10-15 years from now. It's just future anticipation. So everything you're seeing in the game, everything is in development right now, and we're just taking it a step further and just assuming that it's already on the battlefield, already usable in 10-15 years. And since the Ghosts are the elite of the U.S. Special Forces, in our Tom Clancy world, Ghost Recon world, they have access to that equipment. So if I'm going through the items they have quickly, we've got that Crosscom right there. It's marked by that blue thing. It's augmented reality. So it gives them it feeds them information, live information on the battlefield, and it's shared between the teammates. That's the key thing about that system. If you tag enemies or if you spot enemies with your drone, that information is shared to your teammates. If they spot an enemy, it's shared to your teammates. You might have noticed when you played the game that you've got holograms, right? Well, sometimes it's because you use that intel grenade, which I'm also talking about. It's just which highlights enemies in a certain area. Or you might have one of your teammates spot an enemy and he shows up as a hologram because, well, that information is shared between teammates. So we've got the drone, which flies around and spots enemies. Which it can transform into a small buggy, a small car, which drives around, and you can sneak up into buildings and look what's going on in there. We've got the intel grenade. We've got the cloaking device, which you've talked about, which is already also in development, which is kind of unbelievable, but it's true. We've got we've got the magnetic view, which allows you to see through walls, not through all the walls, but through a certain depth of material, of concrete. So that are the items you're using, and then they all make sense in the gameplay, because the typical Ghost Recon situation you're going to face is you're walking around. You've seen that in the last mission you've played. You walk around, and then you're facing a situation, and then you're like, okay, how am I gonna act? You know. So for instance, you could use a drone, have a look around, and see, oh, I can sneak up over there. So you're tagging a couple of enemies, saying, well, you teammate 1, you're taking out this guy, and 30K, you're taking out this guy, and pepper, blah blah blah. And then you sneak up, and you take out, you analyze and spot the biggest threats that you're facing, and then you take them out at once. By sneaking up, using that awesome cover-to-cover system. You know, it's super intuitive. It works really, really well. Cloaking device and cover system flanking your enemies, and then you just strike, and then, well, you deal with the rest of the situation. So that would be a typical Ghost Recon Future Soldier situation you'd be facing. Of course, if you want, you can also go in guns blazing. It's also a possibility, but we're giving you the choice. That's the key thing I want to say about Ghost Recon. It's a thinking shooter. It's basically you have the time. We're giving you the time in the pacing of the campaign and in the situations you're facing to think about what you want to do. If you want to go in guns blazing, well, be our guest. You know, just have fun blasting everything out of the sky. If you want to think about it and just a little bit and see and assess that situation that way, or replay it maybe in a different way, well, you can as well. So we're really giving the player that it's not small, it's actually huge, that huge gameplay possibility.
Now, speaking of a thinking shooter, as you mentioned yourself, this game also seems more based around story than the previous games, at least in the old series. Right. How will the story progress? Can you tell us a little bit about that this time around?
Well, I can tell you something about the story. Obviously, I can't tell you everything because that'd be a huge spoiler. But one thing I can tell you, of course, is the Tom Clancy influence on the story. We've had. Red Storm was initially founded by Tom Clancy back in the 90s, then was bought by Ubisoft, and we have some official Tom Clancy writers there, so they know everything about Tom Clancy and write and have his agreement to write scripts and novels about the Ubisoft Tom Clancy franchises, so Splinter Cell and Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon. So of course it's a Tom Clancy scenario. And to talk a bit about where it's going to take you, it starts really small with one of the other Ghost teams following a lead on a weapon smuggling organization, and they get killed by a bomb, and then you're picking up where they left off, where they died basically, and just trying to find out what's going on with that weapon illegal weapon trade, and to avenge also your friends. And this will will take you to South America, then Africa, and then to the Middle East, to the Arctic Circle, and then back to Russia. And it turns out that it's way more than just a weapon smuggling deal. It's actually a global political crisis, and the weapon smuggling deal was just a small part of it. And typical Tom Clancy, a small group will save the world.
You talked about earlier the sharing of information between the teammates. This will also work cooperatively, I'm assuming.
Right, so multiplayer is a big part of the game, obviously, because I mean, as I said and said again, so I'm not going to repeat it, but special forces work together, so we need to convey this. So if you're playing the campaign in co-op, of course you'll share that information, and that information system is magnified in the adversarial, where you play up to 8 against 8, or where you'll also share that information with your teammates. So if you're flying with a drone around and spotting enemies in an adversarial map, your teammates will see them as holograms on their screen, so it will give them a competitive edge over the enemy. So it's definitely used in the multiplayer, and actually completely magnified, because you're not playing against AI anymore. You're playing against humans, so it's much more it's much more edgy. It's much more difficult, obviously, and so that edge that intel gives you is priceless when you're facing them. So, for instance, you might be two guys just being suppressed, with a suppressive fire by an enemy, and you don't know where he is, and you're trying to get out of the situation. Just pop up the drone, have a look where he is, and then one of you might flank him while the other one just sits around there. And bam, the situation is solved already, So it really is used in multiplayer and completely magnified.
And here finally, is there a particular thing or an aspect about the game that you're particularly excited about for the gamers to experience when it comes out?
Well, I might repeat myself, but that's really what I like about the game. It's really what Ghost Recon Future Soldiers is all about. It's that, well, if I may, my favorite situation in the game happens a lot in the game is the following. It's you're facing a situation. You pop up the drone. I love the drone. It's super. I love it, up and down and right and left and right. It's really super quick and super smooth. I love that. So you're just flying around, just tagging a couple of guys, and then using that cloak and just sneaking up on the enemy. And then you analyze the threat. You pinpoint what are the most important targets. You tag them. Your teammates go into position. You sneak up on whoever you need to sneak up on. Sometimes it's behind enemy lines. And using the cover to cover and that cloaking device. And then just bam, take them out. And then everything goes sideways and goes to shit. And then it's just guns blazing. So it's that I'm thinking about it. I'm smarter than you. I'm taking out the biggest threat. So for instance, the guy on a turret, you're taking him out first, and the jeep, for instance, and then it's just guns blazing with the remaining infantry. So that's really what I like about it.
So Yann, when can we expect to see Ghost Recon on store shelves, and what formats can we buy there?
Okay, so the game is coming out on May 24th in Europe on Xbox and PlayStation 3, and a PC version will follow really quickly. And right now we're in full polishing mode. We're working on pacing. We're working on refining the experience, as you might have experienced yourself while playing it. It's really about a wow moment, and then just it quiets down and it's super smooth, and then bam, it's a wow moment again. And so we're really working on refining all of this and bringing you the most relevant and the best Spec Ops experience you've ever had on a video game.
Secure. Standing by for extract.